Hello and welcome to another episode of the Instant Impact Event Show. I am Cheryl Williams.
I'm CJ Williams. How's everybody doing today?
Welcome. We're so glad you're here to talk with us today.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Yeah, we have we're cruising right along with all these episodes. We're getting a lot of great feedback, and I know a lot of you listen more than watch, but we do have the visual if you want to watch the show as well. So either way,
take a look at us.
Yeah, see what we're doing.
See this fine lady next to me?
I am wearing my sparkly shirt today, so a little razzle dazzle going on over here. But yeah, we're excited to just continually put out new episodes each and every week, and with lots of different topics. And we have we could probably put out one a day. It's just the time that goes into doing that. We're not able to do all that. But we have so much that we want to discuss and give. And so that's why if you're not following us on social media, make sure you look at also. We'll start putting the links in the show notes to all of our different social profiles, so you can follow us individually. And then also, the show as well.
Yes, give us a follow.
Yeah, and then make sure.
Then you can interact more.
Yeah, because we love. I mean, that's why we're doing this, is so that we can start that dialogue, the communication, conversation. In the world, but in the event industry specifically, it's just there's a lot of things, moving parts, and everyone's kind of bringing their own thing to the table, and it's like, okay, I'm working on this, or I'm working on that. But to step back and actually have a conversation, to be able to talk with someone who
and answer any questions you have, and be there for you.
That's what we're here for. And so make sure that you tell your other like-minded people. We talk a lot about events, but we talk about other mindset and things as well, and kind of getting out of our own way and continuing to grow and build. So if you have other speakers, coaches, consultants, other people that you think would find value in this, make sure you give us a share and a shout out, and let them know, because we're looking at continuing to build out this community of lots of like-minded individuals, and in order to do that, we need your help for that. So
yes, we do.
Make sure you give us a shout out. Tell everyone, as long as you think that what we're providing is valuable and insightful, then let other people know about it as well.
Helps even more.
So we can continue to grow and expand. So today's topic is
ideal event.
Yep.
What does your event look like in your mind?
And we were talking about this before we got on here. It's like, there's ideal event of, what do you want your event?
Actually having an event?
Right.
Or before it?
How does that work? But we're going to take it a step before that. It's
before
like
it even happens.
Right now, maybe you've had an event before. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you've gone to a lot of events. Maybe you have some ideas, but you haven't really conceptualized what you want your event to look like for you. And, are you the speaker? Are you the planner? Are you the audiovisual person? Are you...
are you just working for somebody who does have events?
Yeah. Are you someone who is, coaching, and you want to get into speaking and want to get into putting on your own events? Maybe you have a business and you see, more on the entrepreneurial side, and you see, what? I could add events to something and really get out to more people.
Branch out more.
Share my message and, my insights with others. And so there's a lot of different reasons to have events, and why we say that they're so valuable and helpful. And
it helps others also.
It does. And that's we're always about. It's not about just giving away the information. It's not like it's like here's more information and pile it on. I mean, we're in an information abundance right now. You can look for anything, find anything, talk with anyone about anything. It's there. The challenge is it's not just about gathering more information. It's about taking that information and utilizing it and turning it into transformation, right? It goes, if you hear something goes in one ear and out the other, it's not really doing anything.
No, you're not doing anything for it.
Right, that's what we always talk about. Hey, you've got to get into action. You've got to put some effort towards it. It's not just about, oh, well, that's a good idea, or, oh, yeah, I haven't thought of that before. You've got to now apply, right? And so we always say, you're taking your time to, sit here and watch or listen
we appreciate that, Bern.
to our show, but we want to push you to go further than that, right?
Yes.
We don't want you just listening and, hey, this is another podcast or another YouTube show or another, thing that I just listened
That's
to,
right.
and then it's like, oh, that's great, I'll wait for the next episode to come out. We want you in between the episodes to start taking the information that we're giving to you and putting it out there, right? Actually putting it into action. And that's going to then generate more questions on your side that we can then help you with as well.
Yes, because you're in the motions of taking that action, and then things are going to be different for you, and then you have more questions.
Yeah. So what we're talking about today is, what do you want your event to look like, right? How do you visualize or see that in your mind? Because that's where every event starts. It starts as an idea, and then you start putting some thought behind it, and it's like, oh, okay, well, the first thing you got to think of when you're, we do a lot of visualization, right? Because you can see it, you can feel it, you're there, right? You can put yourself into that moment.
And you put yourself in that state.
Right, and we want you to start doing that. Like, what does your ideal event look like in your mind so that you can then put it out there of how you want it to be, right? I mean, there's a big difference.
And then you're going to be excited after you actually picture it.
Because then you can see it, and then you can tell others about, okay, well, this is what we're going for, because you want to, you have a team of people around you. You want to get everyone on the same page. You want them to see the vision of where you're going after, and the big picture of, okay, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. This is why we're having these events. And so you first have to figure out, like, what kind of event do you want to have? One of the first shows that we put on was like all the different event types that are out there. Are you having conferences? Are you having seminars? Are you
galas,
having workshops? Are you having, trade shows and expos? Like, there's so many different types of events. You have to figure out what kind of event do you want to have. And then you've got to figure out, okay, once you know the type of event you want to have, it's like, okay.
Then you got to start planning.
You've got to start then figuring, okay, well, what am I going to, like, what's the overarching theme or topic or discussion that we're going to be having at this event, right? Because you've got to have, you could have all these ideas, but each event needs to cover, a specific topic, theme, idea, something, and not just be everything. Right?
I'm going to have it anywhere. I can have it anywhere. Any kind of event, where, doesn't matter. Convention center.
And you can just talk about all these different things. Like, you have to kind of narrow it down. Each event needs to be narrowed in scope as to what it is that you're going to be speaking on, what the event is about. It's going to help when it comes time for marketing.
Or other people are going to be involved.
The message. And then, how many days are you thinking about having this event? Is it an evening event, or it's kind of a couple hours and it's done? Is it a lunch, like more of like a luncheon? You're doing a few hours for there.
Right.
Is it
one day and then you bring in lunch if you want to, or then you go to 2 and 3 days.
Right.
As long as you're able to fill it and not fill it with fluff.
Right. And that's where we always talk about, I would rather you condense down your event into
and make it more powerful.
A smaller, more powerful, impactful 3 hours, half a day. Instead of saying, well, 3 days sounds great for me, and you've never spoken on stage before, or you've never had your own event before, right? You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, one day is awesome if you never spoke before, because then you can get going and getting busy and getting in those reps.
And it is. It's about, just like anything, you're not going to be great at it when you first start, right? So it's better to get those reps in on a 2 hour, right? It's better to get those reps in on a half day than struggling through a day or 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, and then throwing up your teammate, somebody who works for you, just to say, talk about something.
And we've had those types of events. We've been at those events.
And I was the one on stage being pulled down there.
Or it's like, you're having this great topic, and then it's because you haven't spoken about it enough.
Right, or broke it down.
You kind of go blank, and so you're up there. Everyone, all the eyeballs are on you, and it's like.
That's what those slides are for.
Okay.
To keep you on track.
Well, we're going to talk for a second, but that's the other challenge, though, is a lot of people do...
Not overdo it.
No, and I do want to have a show, we'll bookmark this in there, on the challenges of events. Like, what are the major challenges and pitfalls of having events? I think that would be a good topic. But one of them, if you're up there and you're speaking and then you forget about what you're talking about, you got to know how to get back on, right? How do we course correct? How do we keep the audience engaged, keep moving forward?
Take that deep breath, and they'll never even know because you took a pause.
The other thing is you're up there and you're speaking so fast and you're going through your slides, that what you thought was going to be a 90-minute presentation turned into a 30 or 40-minute presentation, and now you have this time to fill, right?
Yes.
And so you've got to get comfortable with speaking.
Spreading it out.
With giving your information out, with
asking questions too.
And something else that's great is the Q&A period. So when you poll your audience and you get feedback from your attendees,
get them involved.
When you ask them what was the most impactful part of this event, a lot of times they will say that open Q&A or that panel that you had where we were able to ask questions.
Because they learned more.
Yeah.
Because situations are always similar.
And that's the key, right? It's like, okay, you had this time in there where you were speaking, and when you're on stage and you're speaking to your audience, a lot of times you're speaking at them, right? You're speaking to them. They might not necessarily be conceptualizing and getting all of that information, and that's why having that time for the Q&A or for a panel,
talks about that.
Right? Having that time for that really then engages your audience because no matter who gets up and asks the question in front of the mic, everyone is paying more attention during that time than at any other time because they're like, oh, this is someone who's sitting in a seat like me. Oh, they have a question. Maybe the other person's like,
they're the lead.
Right, I haven't thought of a question yet.
Yes, but always with the mic.
And yes, you got to have a mic.
Always with the mic.
When they get up and ask that question, like, oh, you know what?
That was my question.
That was a question. I forgot that I wanted to ask that question. Darn it. And so then they're asking they're like, that was it. Yeah, that was the question I had that I forgot.
Ooh, and I have to get up.
So asking those questions, they then see themselves in that person. So now they have stepped into that. And so now you're not just talking to that one person who asked the question. Right. You're now talking to all the other people who had the same exact question and either forgot it, were too afraid or shy to get up and ask, or didn't want to seem like they were,
didn't know much
that were dumb,
on the subject.
right? And didn't want to ask it incorrectly. Or
it happens all the time.
You know what? This is a silly question. No, they're not.
Forget it.
I'm not gonna. So those people who do get up, the rest of the audience is embodied into that, and so that's really where the experience and they start getting more.
Right.
So when
you create more questions.
Yeah. And when you're having your event, you need to have time for that Q&A or the panel. The same thing with the panel. When you have a panel up there, maybe it's all your speakers and you have them up there for a panel, which normally means they're talking, but then they're fielding questions from the audience, and it's more of a conversation, right? And people love having conversations.
Yes, and it brings their guard down.
You could have a whole event just sitting and talking and having that conversation. And what you're doing is you're including the audience into the round table, right?
Yes.
You're like, how we use that fireside chats, and you sit down and you talk.
come down off stage and be a part of the group.
You can walk around. But people, when you're standing up and you're, already on a riser, and you're 2 feet above, or you're 3, whatever your stage, your riser size is, and they're sitting, so you're up here, right? And they're down here, you're speaking at them, right? Versus when you're sitting down in a chair or in
even though you're looking eye to eye to a few, but there's a lot more than just a
There's a barrier that gets removed, and people are able to assimilate more during those time periods.
Especially once you go down those stairs and be a part.
Yeah, because then you're not just up here speaking to them. You're now a part of them. You're mingling throughout the crowd. You are getting down on there. You're able to, maybe tap someone on the shoulder, or that's that human connection, right?
And talk too.
And people are longing for human connection. And that's
off
why
the phones and the devices.
We talk about all the time coaching is great, right? But if you're coaching someone over the phone, or you're coaching someone over Zoom, or you're coaching someone however you're coaching them, right? That is different. There is still a void in that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's not an either or, it's an and. You can do both.
Correct.
You can have your virtual experiences and your live experiences. You could have...
Even at the same time.
You can. But having that human interaction, that relationship, that's what really builds that know, like, trust factor. It's like, they're human. Look, I can reach out, I can pinch them, I can touch them. Look, they put on their shoes, they put on, you're real.
Just don't grab their butts.
be a different kind of event, Who knows? Whatever works your fancy there on that one, but but when you're visualizing or when in your mind you're seeing your event, you have to really think about what impact are you wanting to leave? What's the key takeaways that you want your attendees or your audience to get? Because it's not just about having an event. You can have an event, and that's what we talk about all the time. People have events
it's more than
all
that.
the time. It's about the experience.
Yes,
it's
even
about
beforehand.
The impact. It's about that relationship that you're building and that community that you're building by having your events. So lots of people have events.
Yep.
But they're not effective. They're not impactful.
They won't go back.
They're not lasting. And they're not creating a tribe of people who want to then go home and rave about you in a good way, right? And shout from the rooftops the experience that they had and get everyone else to come on board and come to the next one.
You can't even get an email after the event's over.
Yeah.
How was the event? Ask questions, something.
Feedback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something.
And because people want to be heard. And so when they feel like, I'm being heard, they're listening to what I'm having to say, that helps. So when you're putting in your mind your event together, it's not just about what am I going to speak about or, what's it going to look, what is the impact you're wanting to create? What are the visuals that you're wanting to have do that?
Yes, the look and the feel.
That all comes to that event experience, what you're talking about, who you're bringing in to speak, how many, slots are there going to be? How much time are you going to have for that Q&A?
And this is all beforehand you're doing this.
Yes.
This is all beforehand, not
this is something
when an event's about to happen. No, this is your thinking and imagining this when you're sitting on your ass on the couch with some slow music, thinking about it, visualizing and getting it together in order of how you're going to do it and who's going to help you.
And wherever that peaceful place is for you, that quiet place that you can go, that you can spend some time and not be interrupted to really get clear on what are you doing this for, right? It's not for the money. That's not what you're doing it for. There's many ways to make money, right? So that's not really the reason that you're doing at the end of the day. What are you wanting people to say about your event? What do you want their major... If you could ask, you could poll people like, what are you wanting them to say? Like, this event was what? This event was the best event I've ever been to. This event changed my life. This event, that one key piece of knowledge I took away, I'm going to be able to put that into my business and totally change things.
I was listened to.
I felt heard. This is something that it was so well put together from beginning to end. Like, fill in the blank on what you're wanting them to say, because then you're working towards that in you're now taking what you want.
And you have the plan.
Because then it makes it easier to put together the schedule. Because you already know we're doing this.
Or it's all guided.
What type of thing you're wanting to have, right?
You already know. That's on top of the page.
Are you wanting a smaller, more intimate group? Or are you wanting 25 to 50 people? More of like a workshop or a mastermind, something where you can get a lot of hands-on.
And they can ask a lot of questions, be a part of.
Are you wanting something that's larger, like a seminar or a conference, of a couple hundred people or a couple thousand people? Or where are you wanting to go with this? Are you wanting it to be, where's the ideal location? What city would you like to have this in?
Will you be close to home, or you're ready to venture out?
Yep. Are you, how many days are you wanting it to be? What's the brand going to look like? What's the message going to be?
Yes, the colors.
What's the overarching theme of this event? Because then it makes it so much easier because you put some thought into it. Then you can be like, okay, we're having and this is just hypothetical, we're having a 2-day event. It's going to be a conference. We're going to have it, somewhere middle of the country. We're going to,
Yes, close to the airport.
Near an airport. It's going to be, in the springtime. Fill in the blank. We're gonna do some things in the evening to really bring everyone together.
Yes.
We're gonna have some
Cocktail
breakout
party.
groups.
Yes.
We're gonna have, after morning and afternoon or evening, we're going to have some Q&As. Maybe you have a Q&A in the morning before lunch.
Yep.
And then
speakers.
in the evening you have a panel.
It's all up to you.
And that is what is so amazing about events, is it's creative. It's something that there is no right or wrong on how to do it. I mean, there are some guidelines that we need to stick with, right?
Yes.
To make sure, again,
not an hour that. Yes.
Impactful, and leaves a lasting impact and creates that experience. So there's no right or wrong.
What do you want them to learn and get out of it?
though, to any of these answers. If you want to have your event on the beach, everyone in their swimsuits and flip-flops and, sipping a Mai Tai, hey.
You can do it.
Do it, right?
Yes.
If that's what you want. If you want to have more of like a retreat style event where everyone's guard is down there to,
go to Hawaii,
to soak up the sun, Mexico, Florida,
Bali. Anywhere.
Go wherever. So there's so many different ways of how.
That's right.
And that's why you have to get clear on what you want first. You have to think about this, because then it's easy to fill in the blanks as you go along. Well, our schedule's going to be this. We're going to have this many days. We need to make sure, this. How are we getting people there?
Right, and if you already have a big list and you want to get more creative, then you do go to a beach somewhere. Then you do create something that's a couple days, a nice retreat. Go ahead and do it, even though you never thought of it before, but people do it all the time.
And there's, excuse me, there's the time when you have that event, and then you could have the excursions, right? Maybe you have a 4-day event, but you're not really, having the event for 4 days.
No,
it's more of like
for fun after
day
the
1 and 2. We're sitting, we're learning, we're absorbing, we're doing the Q&A, we're doing smaller, and this is more for like a smaller. And then day 3 and 4, hey, we're out
and about, snorkeling on the boat, doing different things.
All kinds of stuff. So maybe, mountain retreats are great too, like in the winter time and maybe fall, the leaves are starting to change. Is that you walking in the snow?
In the snow? What do you call it?
Snowshoeing?
No. Yeah, snowshoes. Snowshoe?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
There's beautiful places all around the world, really. The leaves change in the fall. You get something nestled up in the hills.
And have a nice picnic area already set out for everybody when they show up.
And that can help your theme. So then you're more of like a fall theme. So you're going to have like spices, and you're going to have like apple cider, and maybe one of the things you go and do.
We should do that. I like that.
And that is, for me, that is what I love about events, right? Even when we're planning like our kids' birthdays or Christmas or anything, it's like, okay, guys, what's your theme?
Know,
like, what do you want your theme to be this year? And they start thinking.
Our youngest is Mario. He's on it.
What's hilarious is their birthday comes, they have their theme, and then the next day after their birthday, they're already thinking about the theme for next year, right? So, but it's creative. You're able to make it any way that you want to make it. And it can
scale.
And again, what is your budget? What do you have to work with? If you're working on a smaller budget, it's still doable, right?
Yes, it is.
Maybe you won't have as many bells and whistles. That doesn't mean...
It's okay. It can still be impactful.
That does not... Yes, exactly. That does not mean the experience has to be any less or the impact.
Nope.
If you have, hundreds of thousands of dollars for you, but awesome, you can do more things with that. But again, that doesn't mean you just need to throw money at it either.
No.
There needs to be a rhyme and a reason and a place for each and every thing.
Not just to waste your money because it's there.
And some other ways that you can think, maybe you're like, this whole seeing it in my mind thing, I'm not a visual person. Okay.
Okay, do the same thing, but just write it.
Or, you know what I think you need? You need some inspiration. So you get on your device, whether that's your computer or your iPad or your phone, and you start looking up some event inspiration. A great place for event inspiration is Pinterest.
Pinterest.
If you just go on, I could live on there.
Gives her all the ideas for everything.
You go on there and you just start looking for inspiration. Start typing in some things, and you're going to be like, oh, I like that. So then what you can do is you can create a digital folder, whether on Pinterest or on your computer, start a folder, and you start, we always like our dream boards and our vision boards. Well, start making your digital event board, right? And maybe you've been to some events that you like as well, so you have some photos of that. Or,
put it all together.
Even better yet, you've been to some events and you're like, I did not like this at the event.
Things that aren't going to happen at mine.
You can have we're not doing this list, right? These are the experiences I've had.
Yeah, I was done at 9. I was exhausted. I couldn't eat. We started way too early. Nobody was there. And on and on
right?
and on.
Or, it was just so much go, 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 go. I wasn't able to catch a breath and really absorb it all.
Each day my brain was fried.
Right. So you want to, there's an event, there's ebbs and flows, right? You want to, it's not a constant, it's not
a racetrack where you're constantly going.
And it's not always an upward. You want to take your audience and your attendees up, and then you want to let them down. And then you want to bring them up, and you want to bring them down. And we're not saying bring them down and smash them out. That's not it either.
Not lay them down either.
No. Well, that's not true. Certain events, If you're doing like meditation events, and
Yes.
you know, that is. So, but you have to. There's an ebb and a flow to an
Correct.
event. And just like, you know, music, you don't want it always the same
Bam,
beat,
bam, bam,
right?
bam.
You want that ebb and flow, that up and that down, that time when you are moving a little faster, right?
Yes.
Because that brings people together.
Yes,
But then
and
you want that,
then take a breath and
Yeah,
relax.
that slow
and
down.
settle in some
right?
more.
And that's an event. You could, you know, the best composers, how are they so great? Because they're orchestrating
Yes.
music. They're orchestrating the notes. They're orchestrating the ebbs and the ups
Yes,
and the downs.
breakdowns.
Every beat has a specific
And
purpose.
a reason. Yes.
And so for your event, every beat of your event needs a purpose. But it doesn't need to be bum, 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 bum. It needs to be, you know, like music.
Right.
It needs to flow. It needs to, you know, have your ups and your downs.
Yes.
And of course, you know, you want to get as much in there as possible, but you also want people to have that experience and the
Yes.
impact at the same
And don't
time.
fill it too much. You know, we're going to do just 20 things at the first day.
Yeah.
No, you can do 5 or 7
And
and then save the rest for the next day.
that's where filtering comes into play, right? We talk a lot about, you know, you can have, we had a post that went out, I think it was yesterday or the day before, about having multiple events, right? So many people think, well, I'm going to have this event, so I got to jam everything
No.
into it. It's like,
Nope.
no, you don't need to jam everything in it. You need
Not in one
to
event.
edit and take it down. And that's why we always say, start with what are you wanting people to get out of this event? And then
And
everything
then
that
you'll figure it out.
happens at that time flows into that, right? It
Yes.
becomes something that's like, oh, well, this, and oh, another thing. I was going to drink some tea. Hold on a second. So one thing that you want to do is while you're visualizing this or seeing it in your mind, when you're done with that, you do want to put it down on paper, right? You want to write it out so that you can see it. And I
And remember
like
it.
blank paper even more than lined because then you can kind of make
draw.
it the way you want it to be.
Yep.
So at the top, though, it's like, what is the overarching theme of this event, right? What is the
Start
topic?
from the
What-
beginning.
and so
Yes.
then you can put it up there. And then you can list out, like, here's all the different things we could do. And then what
Yes.
you have, the litmus test, though, is does this idea flow into the theme or the topic? If it doesn't, don't just
Take it
get rid
out.
of it. Put it over here for, that can be another time. That could be another event.
Yes.
Maybe, you know, wherever you're going to put that. But if it doesn't flow, it's time to edit. You got to go through and edit those topics out and those ideas out because there's no lack of
Right,
ideas
and
most
then
of the time.
by doing that, you know you don't need a 3-day. It'll be a 2-day.
Right. Or, you know, you're like, wow, you know what? I have so much information here. I could see this being an event series, right? Where we have like, here is the beginner, right? The intermediate and the advanced. Or, you know, we're going to go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. Like, I don't need to be teaching them level 3 stuff at a level
No.
1 event, right?
Nope.
So you've got to kind of look at that, and each industry
Right,
is
their
different.
knowledge is gonna be different
It's
at
kind of
that
like, you
point.
know, when you go to school, okay? All the way through, you have to learn one thing before you learn the next thing, right?
Yep.
In high school, I mean, you got to take Algebra 1 before you take Algebra 2, before you take geometry, before you take trigonometry, right?
Yes.
Because
Get into the harder
everything
things.
builds upon everything. Well, at your event, you need to look at that too. It's like, are there prerequisite events that people need to go to before they come to this event over here?
Yes.
Right? If
Put
you're going to
them
take
right
an
in there,
accounting
right
course,
there.
do you take the accounting, you know, 5 before you take accounting 1 or 2?
Nope.
No. So that's, you have to look at your event like that too, because you can have multiple events. You can have an event sequence. You can have, you know, kind of like a stair-step approach. They're here. Now we need to get them to here. Okay, now that they're here, then we can get them to here. And so you can have multiple events, and then you just kind of schedule those throughout the year.
It also doesn't have to be on the same subject either. You can have multiple events,
On
different
totally
events
different
without
topics.
having a sequence, but it'll be a different topic.
Yep.
Yep.
It's like, hey, you know, we're talking right now today about events, but we could have an event. We'll give an example. So maybe we have an event on having live events. How do you have live
Yep.
events and how do you put those together? That's one event. We could
Yes.
have another event on how do you have virtual events, right?
Yep.
That's another topic.
And then on sales.
You could have another event on, hey, how do you sell and make money and make
Yes,
your
and be
events profitable?
profitable.
That's another event, right? They're not, you could take either one of the 3,
Right.
or you could take them all, but you don't have to do one before you do the other, right?
Yes, because it gets confusing and you attempt to do everything at one event.
Right? Maybe we have an event on, you know, how to be a more effective speaker. So that could be another event. There's so many different ways that you can do it. So if you don't want to do sequential, you could do just standalone events.
Yes.
But again, I would not throw everything that we just talked about into one event. It's too much, right?
Yep.
It's too much information.
They'll go over their head, and then they'll be overwhelmed.
For the transformation, right? Because you don't want people, you want butts and seats, but you want those butts and seats to go home and do something, right? Not be like, I don't know what to do, because a confused mind, what does it do?
Never buys.
It never buys, and it never takes action, right? And so if they're confused or they're not sure, or they're like, wow, that was a lot,
They
right?
might even leave early.
They just say, well, this is not for me, and they pack it up and go, right? So you want to have that put together where it's bite-sized pieces. We're giving it to them one bite at a time, one event at a, and that makes it easier when you're planning out your event to conceptualize and to visualize and to see, hey, I'm having this event, this is the topic, this is the type of event we're having, this is the location I want to have it,
and
these are the topics.
And who's going to take care of what?
Yeah. Who are the experts that we're going to, am I taking it all? Am I the speaker and I'm doing it all? Great. Am I going to bring in some other people?
Do you already have a team, or are you going to build a team?
So when you're thinking about your event, that's what we say, you got to have, what's your ideal event? What do you want? And while you're thinking of all these ideas, you're going to have multiple things that come to you. That's fine. But then you've got to go through that process of editing it out and saying, well, that's not for this event right now, right? And you need to focus on one event right now. When that one event is done and complete into fruition, and you've done it, then you can work on another one. Because now we're like,
and you're still reaching out to people that were at your first event.
Yeah.
Because you never know, if they're on the same list, they might want to come to your next, even though it's on a different subject.
Right. So you're continually, but you don't want to say, well, I got all these ideas, so I have 5 different topics I want to talk about here. So we're going to have 5 different, you don't want to, go out of the gate and start, we're going to do 5. No. Yeah. 1 or 2 is good.
Because there'll be a lot of information.
Get good at those. Once you get good at those, then you can add on another one, right?
Because each event's going to be different. And you're going to learn, you're going to make it better for the next.
And then you're going to figure out, a lot of times you don't want to just have the event one time. This should be an event that you're having yearly. Maybe you're having it quarterly. Maybe you're having it every 6 months. Maybe you're having it every month, right? That again, how frequently are you having this event? Because some are, the annual, maybe you're having a banquet, and it's once a year you do that. Great. Maybe you're having something and it's your big convention and everyone comes to it, and it's that annual event that you have. Awesome. Maybe you're having a training, though, and this is a training or a workshop or a seminar that you want to hold on a monthly basis. Okay. So that's where getting clarity on what your ideal event is and what you want that to look like really comes into play.
It will. And you'll be more excited once that's done. Because you're always going to be thinking about it, okay, I'm going to take that out because it doesn't need to be there. And it's just going to grow from there.
And then once you do have the event, then you need to gauge, hey, did that go off how I thought? Is there something else that we can edit again? Should we change? Once you've had it, then you can go back through and kind of edit it again and say, okay, for the next one, we're going to do these things, but we're not going to do this. We're going to put something else that could be more impactful into that thing. Or, we're going to take some feedback that we had and we're going to change some things up. But you have to do that initial edit.
Subject here.
Yeah. Or, hey, that speaker that we had, that wasn't
he's not coming back.
He or she wasn't really what we thought. Well, hey, we talk about that. If it's a beach event, go for it.
But if it's not, no.
I'm all for the flip-flops at a beach event.
She gets excited.
Yeah, I do. My toes in the sand, the warm sun, the ocean rolling in and out. What?
You're supposed to take off the flip-flops.
I do. I flip-flop my way there. I put my toes in the sand, then I take my flip-flops off. But then I take them back out and I flip-flop again.
Got it.
Flip-flops are my friend. I like flip-flops. If you knew how many, it used to be for me like heels. How many pairs of heels can I have?
Yeah, now it's flip-flops.
It's really how many pairs of flip-flops. Now, you got to have the cute flip-flops too, the ones with the bedazzled and the sparkles, and we're not just talking like generic flip-flops here. You got to have sometimes you want the wedge, you want the comfy ones when you're walking around. There's all kinds of flip-flops. So you got to have the heels and the flip-flops.
Yes.
Yeah. So
get your butt on the couch.
Or your comfy chair.
Or,
hey, If it works, then you go out for a
Or
walk.
outside,
And
yes.
listening to the birds. I mean, it's springtime. I don't know, birds are starting to chirp where you're
Yep.
at. Some places are buried in snow. So,
Maybe you jog, take walks.
wherever it is that ideas start to flow for you, go to that place. Do that
Yes.
thing with your
With and
ideas
yourself.
of what you're working on right now. And then when you're done with that, come back and write them down and start
Yes.
working on this, right?
Yes.
We always say, like, don't just listen, apply, do, take action, because then
Yes.
that's when the results are going to start coming. And then, like, we'll talk next week about another topic, another thing, so you can start implementing all these
Yeah.
different areas and aspects into your events, and then it's not
Then
just
you'll be
anymore.
ready. Have a kick-ass event.
And it's not just a topic or a discussion. You're actually doing it. It's like, wow,
Yeah, right.
I'm an event
I
company.
planned it out.
Like, we have this section now. It's like we actually do events, right?
Yeah.
More than one. Like,
For a year,
okay,
just on that
so-
one subject.
But the only way you get there is by doing, right? And it's okay to not know every single answer right now.
Yes.
You got to get into action, right?
Reach out and we'll help.
Yeah, and if you have questions, we have our coffee conversations and Q&A
Yes.
that we go live once a week, and then we do post those as well. So
check
make
out
sure
the
you
questions
check
and the
out
videos.
those. But again, it only takes an instant to make an impact, but you
Correct.
got to start getting into action before you can create that impact.
Yes.
So don't stand in your way.
True.
Don't make excuses. Push it out. Don't
Go.
push it off, and get into the action for
Yes.
it. And then we will talk to you again here very soon. Bye, guys.